There's another great question about doing crazy 3D curves. So, um, finding the actual node where this is happening was one challenge, which I have another video for. But once we have that, I'm going to select to view the final result of like what's being rendered. So we have those wires over there, and we want to get as close to the actual uh, geo as possible. We don't want to. I mean, you can render it way over here too. Like, I guess that's fine. So let me see here. So yeah, if we render the whole thing, that can work too. But usually I try to do it closer. It just depends on what you're messing with. So I have this section here for gizmo wires, and ultimately, at the end of the day, the curve here is what's controlling it. And so when we drew the curve, this is where it was at, and we repositioned it with this transform. So if I like turn off this transform, oh, shoot, hold on. The auto UV is going to bake. It's going to take forever. All right, I disabled auto UV real quick so I can work faster. All right, so this transform here puts it into position, but when we're drawing it, originally we just have these cables. So we can come here and then we can go to this edit over here, and we can see the handles, and we can start messing with these wires, and you can see it moving over there. And so we can get a view that's favorable for this. I gotta find a switch view. I mean, that view is not going to help, but this one's probably the most helpful. And, you can use another 3D view or something, so like perspective. So maybe I think that's what I did last time is I got a nice perspective view, and then you can start, moving things around. These handles in 3D mode are maybe unpredictable. Like it's not always the easiest thing to work with, so definitely a grain of salt here. But sometimes it is exactly what you need. Like it just works intuitively and kind of move things in such a way that you would expect it to move. Like I wanted it at the top here. So, it can be really nice, and sometimes it can be really frustrating, but this is typically how I'll do crazy custom wires. You can use other viewports as well, which change how how it moves. So you can kind of lock it in that dimension. So that can be really useful. It's a lot of trial and error, like just kind of getting the skill built up and messing with the cables. You can mathematically do it if you're so inclined. You would have to calculate the positions where you wanted it to be specifically on the sphere. So if you were good at trig, you could identify specific points and then have a wrangle node move these points here, because the curves are it's just creating a bunch of lines. So and because I drew all of these on a single curve node, it would make it a little bit more tedious to work with code-wise, but since I did it manually, it was fine to just have multiple curves in the node. But if you wanted to do something more procedural, then you would do it in one curve per node. That way you would know how many points you're dealing with, which one's the last one, and that last one is the one that you would put in your calculated position with like a wrangle node, which we don't do very often. I think um, does this model even have that? I don't think this model does it. There's another one, like the magnetic engine, does that where it programmatically positions the first and last points to fit into some position. But for the most part, like stuff like this is just done. I just do it by hand until I get better with some of the math. All right, but yeah, that's the secret behind this guy.